On YouTube right now, there are plenty of guides teaching you how to build every character that is in Honkai Star Rail, but I haven't seen that many teach you how to set up your account for success so you can breeze through all the content in the game. This 5-step plan is one that is super simple that I think if you just follow, MOC, Pure Fiction, and even Sim Universe will be a walk in the park. It isn't locked to Star Rail as well, so if you feel like you need some help in Genshin, you can easily use this guide there also. This isn't something exclusive for new players either. People who have been playing Star Rail for a while can still follow this. You'll just be able to skip certain steps. This strategy is one I did unknowingly in Genshin when I first started, and it basically made my experience a breeze. Once I made it to Star Rail, I basically did the exact same thing and life was easy. Now before we get into it, is there any chance that you guys want a Star Rail supply pass or Welkin for free? If your answer is yes, well, join my Discord server. As a thank you for you guys supporting my channel, I'm doing a small giveaway of 5 Welkins and Star Rail passes to all of you guys. All you have to do is click the link in the description, get verified, go to the giveaways channel, and then click this little emote here. As of this video going up, the giveaway is nearing its end, so make sure you do it quick. Anyway, let's go to step 1. So the first thing you need to do is pick any 2 DPS you like, and I mean any. Limited 5-star DPSs are generally going to be a better pick since they'll normally perform better, but 4-star DPS units are still fine. If you're a newer player and don't know all the characters yet, just do an easy search online, find a list of all the characters, and hopefully they're sorted into their roles. Now when deciding between various DPS characters, there is a few things to consider. This entire guide is going to be focused around these 2 that you choose, so make sure you like them. Whether you think they look cool, you think they look fun to play, or you just chose them because everyone said they're OP, it doesn't matter, just pick 2 of them that you're happy to stick with for a while. Now the second step is to then search up these 2 DPS units' best teams. There are plenty of different places to look, but personally I would avoid looking at sites like Game 8, Game With, or other similar ones, as in my experience they've just been blatantly wrong about stuff in the past and generally just put out whatever information as fast as possible for clicks. Some YouTubers I would recommend are Braxophone, Grover Certified, and Sevi, as they generally have amazing guides covering every character in Honkai Star Rail and will definitely have some great team suggestions. Once you've found your DPS unit's best teams, this is where things may get a little tricky. First, out of the best teams, pick one that you would be okay dedicating to. What I mean is, make sure there aren't any characters in this team that you dislike and wouldn't be interested in building/playing. Generally, teams always have alternatives, but if you can't find a team listed that you're okay to go with, then I would unfortunately recommend you to go back to step 1 and pick a new DPS. For an example, if one of my choices was Imbibe the Lune, if his premium team has Sparkle Ting Yun, and I really don't like Sparkle, I could opt for using Pella instead. Just be wary that the further you go from the listed teams, generally the weaker the team becomes. Now looking at the teams for both these DPSs, you also need to make sure there is a way for you to play both teams at the same time without any units overlapping. Let's keep Imbibe the Lune, and my other DPS unit I'm going to say is Jingyuan. Jingyuan and Imbibe the Lune both share the same premium support duo in Sparkle and Ting Yun. If you're able to make do with other supports, like maybe Imbibe the Lune gets Bronya and Pella, and you're happy with a setup like this, it'll mostly be fine. Just be worried that this team is not going to perform as well as the premium one. I also want to quickly bring up that if you chose a weaker DPS as one of your 2, I would suggest looking at some more vertical investment. Every limited 5-star DPS can clear all the content with free-to-play achievable gear, and you definitely don't need Eidolons, and you can probably do it without signature light cones as well. If one of your DPSs is, for example, Arlen, this is where you might need to look into pulling high investment on your supports like E1 Ranmei or E2 Sparkle. Now if you weren't able to make 2 teams with your DPS units, with the units you like, and without any overlap, once again, you're probably going to have to go back to step 1 and pick a new DPS unit to go with. Now once you have these teams down, for step 3 you're going to aim to pull for every character needed to create these teams. I know for some of the community it can be really hard, but hold strong. If you want to make your account strong, you can't just keep pulling for every shiny DPS. Now obviously we're going to start with your chosen DPS units. Pull them first if possible, or at least make sure to guarantee them. Now make sure you're also keeping track of the Honkai Star Rail future banners, either by following what they post on Reddit or Twitter, or by looking at other suspicious sources. When one of these supports or sustains roll around, we want to hopefully be prepared to pull them. Now also try and keep track of potential with newer support characters, since Star Rail pumps out new characters so often that characters' best teams can change very quickly, so just make sure you're aware of that. Now for pulling these supports and sustains, you're going to need to judge which character is more important for the team, just in case you aren't able to have enough Jades for everyone. This is a bit tricky, but try and understand each character's role on the team and how replaceable they are for the time being. For an example, let's go with acheron. My current acheron team is Pella, Gwynaifen, and Lynx. What I'm aiming for is Silverwolf instead of Gwynaifen and Aventurine instead of Lynx. If from what I've been experiencing I generally can't clear MOC because I keep dying, then obviously Aventurine is going to be much more valuable for the time being. So if Aventurine and Silverwolf run at similar times, I would go for Aventurine first and then aim for Silverwolf on a rerun. Or hope a newly released character can work as a better alternative and I can just get them instead. Since you have two teams you're trying to balance, this can be a bit tricky to judge who you need more, but just try your best, eventually you'll get everyone anyway. Now the fourth step starts once you start getting some of these characters on your account, and that's to farm levels, traces, and light cones. These upgrades are what we call guarantee upgrades, as in there's little to no RNG built in, just spend your Trailblaze power and you'll get stronger. For your DPS, their light cone should always be at level 80 and their own level should also be at 80. Supports can generally stop at 70 out of 80 and be fine, but if you have excess mats, try and level them all the way as well. Support light cones can also normally stop at 70, just make sure your supports don't scale off their attack or something similar like Ting Yun. Now once that's all done, it's time to level your traces. You should unlock all major and minor traces on your DPS units, with the exception of some useless defense or HP ones. For their actual abilities, I personally would level everything to at least 8 for now, but you can stop at lower if you want, with the bare minimum being 6. For basic attack characters, generally just get them to 6 straight away as they aren't very expensive. For your supports, I would suggest the same thing. Ability traces should be 8, but just be wary, supports generally have more traces that aren't very useful. A big example is Pella's A6 major trace, which is pretty useless. Just make sure you don't need any of the minor traces behind it. Now once you're happy with your traces for now, it's time for step 5, which is our relic grind. Find out what relics your characters need and try and find the most efficient cavern for you to farm. This isn't going to work out all the time, so don't be too worried if the cavern you're farming doesn't gear all your characters at once. I'm going to stick with Imbibe de Lune and Jingyuan as an example. Looking at all the characters, the best we can work with is the follow-up and dot set. The follow-up set, I'll be looking for a 4-piece for Jingyuan, while my Imbibe de Lune can utilize the 2-piece attack from the dot set, and I'll just rainbow the other pieces temporarily. For my supports, Ting Yun can utilize the 2-piece attack as well, so I can look for some speed heavy pieces from that set. Once I'm somewhat happy with my DPS builds, I can then go to the messenger set temporarily and try and farm some 2-piece speeds for my supports, and then come back to the follow-up set once that's done. This is just an example of what might be considered somewhat efficient relic farming, but at the end of the day, it's never going to be perfect and it's up to you where you go. Now, if in step 4 you stopped your traces at a relatively lower level, so from 6 to 8, I'd recommend going back once you have usable relics. Even if your crit ratio is something garbage like 50 to 90, go back and finish your traces to 9s or even 10s, and then after that you can finally come back and fully commit on the relics. Now this plan might be super obvious to a lot of veteran Hoyoverse or gacha gamers, but I thought I'd put it out anyway just to hopefully help at least one person with their journey in Honkai Star Rail. Once you are finished completely with step 5 and your relics are up to your standard, you can just repeat these steps with any other DPS units to expand your roster. Just try your best to not go too hard into one element or path type, as you could come across some trouble when the content doesn't fit what you have on your account. Anyways, hope the 3x relic events are treating you guys well, and thanks for watching.